Okay, so at this stage, we all know how to add different types of content into our pages, such as text with different styles, images, videos, etc., etc. However, we're probably all at the stage where we're wondering how can we begin to structure this and put this in different parts of our page. In most cases, you've either figured out how to get it into the center or it just starts at the left of the page. So we're going to fix that, and we're going to learn how to structure content around our page using something called the Bootstrap grid. Now, in short, Bootstrap is a library, an online library, which if you copy and paste a link into your HTML file, you can use some pre-coded content. I won't go into too much detail with that. I would prefer to use it by giving you examples. So, before I give you an example, I want you to take a look at this grid here. I've put it on the design site. Now, the best way to imagine this is that this is your web page, and you have 12 invisible columns going across. These are the pink columns in the background here, and the rest are rows, okay? So when you declare a row, or you type in that you want a new row, you would then say how many columns you want your content to take up. So if I were to say I want my text to take up just 6 columns, when you copy and paste your text in, it will start here and it will end here, and it will go back to this part of the page, and it will only take up half of the page. You then have 6 more columns, which you can either take up half the page again, or you can divide it in 2, or whatever you prefer. If I were to say I want my text to take up 12 columns, then it's going to take up the whole width of the page, as it would anyway. You can have it just take up 1/12 of the page by saying 1, or you can leave several columns blank, and then just have something taking up this side of the page here. So that's how I want you to imagine it, but let's see how it works in action. I'm going to go back to my code. The first thing I need you to do is copy this link in there. I need you to put this in the head section of any HTML page which uses this grid, okay, which hopefully will be all of them, or at least most of them. And I want you to comment that out and tell us what that is, because it's good practice. This is your Bootstrap link. Okay, so with this in there, we can then use certain code which is recognized by our browser and by our files because we've got this link in there. Without it, it doesn't work. So let's see how it works. A quick example, okay, and then you can go off and do it yourself. We use something called divs. Now, a div is short for divider because we're dividing the page up into different sections. So div class, we have to say which classes of divs that we're using, and the first one is going to be called container. I want you to put that like this, okay? And whenever you open a new div, I want you to close it straight away, because when you forget, sometimes you don't know why it's not working. It's because you haven't closed it. And we're going to have many divs inside the divs, and you'll see that just now, okay? So we've got a container. Now what the container does, that just paints this imaginary box inside your page, and within the containers we have rows and columns, okay? So our second out of 3 is the row. Remember to close it. As you can see, I like to indent my text so that it's easy to read. Oh, sorry, that's my bad. You just need to close it. I like to indent it here so that you know where they end. So within each row we can have, remember, up to 12 columns, okay? I'm going to give you an example. First we have to declare our column. Now this one looks a little bit strange, but don't worry. Col stands for column. We have a hyphen in there, or a guion. And then I want you to put LG. This means large. You can also put small or medium, but this just depends on the size of the screen that it reads to. If you put large, then you're playing it safe. It will be readable to all. Okay, so I'm going to put 6. This is where we declare our number, and this means that it will take up 6 columns of this particular row. Okay, anything in between here. Remember, I need to close that before I put my content in. So I've done that. Anything between here now is my content. I can put a link to a video, I can put an image, or I can put a bunch of text. It will only go as far as 6 of those imaginary rows. Now let's see how it works. Before I copy it in, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to paste it below. Why am I doing that? Because I've still got 6 more spaces. So this means I'm dividing the page in 2, and they stay within this row. As you can see, if I just click div there, this is where my container ends. They underline in blue. My row starts here and ends there, and then within my row I have up to 12 columns. Make sure you don't go over the number 12 with the here, because otherwise it will run onto the next row and then it messes up your whole page. So I have 6 here and 6 here. Now what I'm going to do, let's just say I were to make a page about Angelina Jolie. Okay. I will just go to Wikipedia because this is just an example, and I'm just going to copy in a load of text just to show you how it works. Doesn't really matter, this is just an example. I'm also going to give it the P tag in there, just give it a bit of style, close P, and get all my text in there. Okay, it looks a bit messy because we just added a load of text, but you know what, I can grab all this and I can move it along like that, just to get it out the way a little bit. Makes my life a little bit easier. Okay, so I've got all that. You know what, I'm going to copy some text again in here. I'm going to do the same thing, just to show you how it divides the page up. Copy that. Okay, I'm not going to bother with the indent just yet, I just want you to see how it looks. So let's go back to my page, refresh. Now you can see I've added a load of text, kind of stops, and then it starts again here, yeah? Obviously the color doesn't look great, the style, but this is just to show you how I'm dividing my content up. What I could also do, I could delete this second piece of text and put something else in there instead. Where's my folder? I've got some images, got one called Ange. I'll use that one because it's long. Okay, so I'm just going to put in here image source equals, it was 4, yeah? 4.jpg. I can change the size later, just let me see that it works. As you can see, I've got my text to the left, my image to the right, okay? This can be changed, remember. What would happen if I were to just get rid of this image for now, and if I change this to 12, I think you already know. It's going to take up 12 columns, yeah? If I change it to 2, which I'd recommend because it's not going to look very good. However, just so you can see, it takes up the first 2 columns, yeah? You can do whatever you want with that. You can also leave, I could also take up 8 columns here and leave this empty. And the reason I may want to leave this empty is because maybe I want my content to start on the right side of the page, but in a particular section. This is going to take forever. There we go. Cut that. Let me just fix this. And paste it in here instead. Now, it doesn't really make sense because remember it's a maximum of 12. I've got 8 here, so if I change this to 4, the first 8 columns should be blank, and the remaining 4 should be taken up by my content. Okay, so this is an idea on how we structure our content. Okay, remember, once you've filled a row, you can add another row. You just declare the class again, make sure you close it, and then within that row you can add content or columns in there. So I want you to play around with that, structure your content, and move things around and see how that works for you.